And you need to understand words and terms. Because I believe that there is a divine presence in the universe that men call God, and one day that divine presence is going to move on the earth, and we're going to see freedom come back to this world. And when it does, you're going to need to understand words and terms and how they have been used to trick you.
So find a way to...
Hello, beautiful beings of light. My name is Monica. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is titled The Law of Money, Admiralty Law Word. And I recently posted a video not too long ago that was titled Words Are Spells, Use Them Wisely. So I've decided to start a series of videos. I'll make a playlist that are about how words are spells and how we don't realize that they have hidden meanings, or just really think about like the American language and how we use so many words that mean different things. And I can see why it can be confusing for people who are learning English. I haven't learned any other languages, but I've just heard that before, that it's very difficult because we just have one word that can mean like 3 different things. I love researching occult or hidden knowledge in my spare time. It's something I've been doing for the last few years. I know that all of it is like super positive and high vibe, but as a light worker, I really like to bring the stuff to light. I feel like it helps me understand how this world works a little bit more, and I just want to share it with you guys today. So hopefully something resonates. If it does, take it. If it doesn't, leave it. I'm going to be basing this video entirely off of another video by someone named Jordan Maxwell. He has his own YouTube channel. Unfortunately, he is not with us any longer, but he does have his YouTube channel still up, and you can go and check out that video. I'll make sure to link it down below. So my best friend told me about this guy and his videos, and to check out this particular one, which I found so fascinating. And I just want to put a disclaimer, this is not about an esoteric law like the law of attraction, even though this is called the law of money. This is actually all tangible. This is not like some kind of metaphysical meaning or energy or anything like that. We're going to be talking about Admiralty Law, Maritime Admiralty Law a lot, and I have never studied law. I don't quite understand it, but I do think it's very fascinating to learn about. So let's get started. So Jordan Maxwell was an American researcher of theology, of etymology, secret societies, and occultism. I personally consider him to be a light worker because he spent like, I don't know, maybe 40 years or so. For a very long time, he was just going on his own and researching a bunch of things from history and religions and all of these like conspiracy theories and putting them together. And he would travel around and he would give talks about the things that he found in his research. So he did end up becoming very popular among the conspiracy theory groups. And I have my notebook here because there was a lot to unpack and break down. So what I did was I just watched his video a bunch of times and I wrote down all of my notes in my own words as best as possible. So I will be looking down to explain all of this to you, so in case you're wondering.
Understanding words is what you really need to start doing. You need to start doing your homework and understanding words. If you put an S in front of words, it becomes swords. And that's what words are. They're cutting. They can cause you great trouble. Humans are word control creatures. So we need to establish what words mean. Again, when we talk about law, there's a Roman maximum in law that says, "For he that would be deceived, let him." Simply meaning, if you are so ignorant as to be deceived, then that's your business, that's your problem. So you need to do your homework and find out what the words mean, especially in relation to law and government. Because there is a world of occultism that is operating today throughout the world, in which you use certain words, and when those words are used in a court, they don't mean the same thing at all.
Okay, so he starts off by saying that there are two things on this earth. There is land and there is water. And as a result of that, there are two kinds of laws. There is one called the law of the land, and then there is one that is called the law of water. So many of you have probably heard the term the law of the land, and it is very straightforward. It means exactly what it says, and that is the law for the people living on that particular land. And this law opposes the other law, which is the law of the high seas or the law of water. The law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on that piece of land. Therefore, the law of the land is different basically in every country. There are things you can do here in America that you can't do in Asia. There are things you can do in the United Kingdom that you can't do in Africa. However, there is a higher law that supersedes the law of the land, and that is the law of water, which can also be referred to as the law of money. So essentially, anytime that we do banking or we're using money, we are right then and there operating under the law of water maritime admiralty. So Jordan Maxwell goes on to say that this all began in ancient history in the land of Cana, which is referred to in the Bible, the land of Cana, where the Canaanites lived. And the Canaanites were of the Phoenician bloodline. In the ancient Phoenician language, Cana translated to merchant banker. The word merchant comes from the word mer, meaning like of the sea or of the water, such as the word mermaid, which is a mythical creature from the sea. So one of the examples that Jordan Maxwell used for explaining kind of the difference between the law of water and the law of the land was with the Statue of Liberty, for instance. He said that the Statue of Liberty could not be put on American land. It needed to be put on water, which is why it's in the harbor, and it represents the Statue of Liberty and not the Statue of Freedom. Liberty is something that a sailor gets when he pulls into port on a ship. So the sailor is not free when he has liberty. And he goes on to say, just like America is not really the land of the free. So right now I'm going to insert another clip from Jordan Maxwell's video that I'm basing this video off of, because I find it very relevant and I find it very interesting, because I actually used to work for a period of time a while back in a courthouse for a judge. And I really didn't understand the culture of the court. I didn't understand the terminology or why it was called certain things, and I found it all very confusing with the ceremonies. So I will insert that here so he can explain that part a little better.
Now let me give you an example of how this law of the water works. Why is it that you have to go to court? People are always concerned about going to court. You go to court because you play basketball and tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Why? Because that's what it is. It's a racket. And make no mistake, they do not pick words by chance. These words are very serious. They do not use words in terms with no avail. These words are very important.
So then he goes on to say that the idea of going to court is pretty much like a game, such as basketball. One team is trying to get their ball into the other team's court. So like one team of lawyers on one side gets up and throws the ball metaphorically to the other team of lawyers, and they just keep going back and forth trying to get it into each other's court. And as a result of both teams of lawyers going back and forth, they are basically playing a ball game. And another symbolism is that there are some ball games, such as basketball that's played on the basketball court and tennis, which is played on a tennis court. The judge is basically a referee, which is why they wear all black. And it doesn't matter which side wins or loses the so-called ball game, because the judge gets paid either way for being the referee. Judges always rule from something called the bench. And bench in Latin translates to bank. So this essentially means that the judge rules for the bank. And where do we find banks? Banks are found on either side of a river, which is why they're called river banks. And what does a bank do? It directs the flow of the current sea. So another example of money in the terms of water is the term liquid assets. A liquid asset is an asset that can be liquidated or turned into cash relatively quickly. There's also a financial term called being underwater, which is when a financial contract or asset is worth less than its notional value. So another fun fact that I didn't know was that all ships are considered female, whether they are cargo, rocket, air, or sailing ships. They're all considered to be female. Maritime Admiralty Banking Law says that all ships are female because they are carrying items for money. The word admiralty comes from the word admiral, such as an admiral in the Navy. When a ship pulls into harbor, it parks at the dock. The captain of that particular ship then has to show the port authorities a certificate of manifest. This is because the ship that is now in the dock currently was not in the dock, let's say yesterday, so it came today, which means it has manifested. And that is a word we like to use in the law of attraction. And these ships can carry all kinds of products, such as cars or electronics or appliances, for example. So every single item, and there can be millions or hundreds of millions of product on there, all of those items have come off of water. And every single ship has a captain, which the word captain comes from a Latin word meaning capital, which also means money. So the captain represents the money that is on that ship. So that certificate of manifest that the captain has to give to the port authority details every item, such as if it's cars, let's say, like what color each of those cars are, how many doors they have, how much they weigh, etc. And wherever a ship sits when it's docked is called its berth. So you may hear some terms like in sailor movies or something like she sits in her berth or she's berthing a ship.
You, Sparrow.
Aye.
You were familiar with that ship, the Black Pearl.
I've heard of it.
Where does it make berth?
Where does it make birth? Have you not heard the stories?
So once again, to reiterate, all the items on the ship are representing money and they come off of water. They are considered maritime admiralty product. And this is the same uniform all over the world. So whenever a baby is about to be born, the mother's water breaks. And once this happens and the mom goes into labor, after the baby is born, the baby has to have a signed birth certificate. And Jordan Maxwell says that the reason that we all have to have a birth certificate as soon as we're born is because technically we're considered a maritime admiralty product by international law. And I know this all sounds crazy and really out there and hard to believe, but I'm just sharing this, and I invite you to do your own research if you're interested. Use DuckDuckGo or something. I'm sure you can find some info out there. So when a mother gives birth to a child, we say that the mother delivered the child, which is why babies are born in a delivery room in the hospital. This language is very similar to, say, Amazon. If you were to purchase something off of Amazon, it gets shipped to you and it gets delivered to your place of residence or whatever address you send it to. So all of that to say, basically, that the elites or the powers that be look at us as products. So when a mom births a baby, they think of that baby as a product that was just delivered. I know it's terrible, but I resonate with that because of a lot of other reasons, but I won't get into that for this video. Another water term is when a baby is born, the doctors say that the baby went through the mother's birth canal. Occasionally, sometimes when products are shipping, they may break. Let's say one of the movers was trying to pick up a TV off the ship to move it and it fell and it broke. Then that was a loss on the product. Sadly, sometimes babies are born as what is known as stillborns, meaning that they died before or during the delivery. And what Jordan Maxwell says, basically that the powers that be that view us as products, they think of this situation as losing money on a product. Therefore, they have to have a signed death certificate. So both birth certificates and death certificates are both signed by the doc, or doctor, if you want to use the full word. But the abbreviation sounds oddly enough like dock with a ship. So all of these words and terms are maritime admiralty banking words. Lawyers, judges, and courts all operate under International Maritime Admiralty Law. So whenever we watch old Western movies, there's typically cowboys who always have guns that they carry with them everywhere, including bars and restaurants and stuff. And sometimes we also see them having a standoff in front of the town, including the sheriff or the sheriff's office. And both cowboys draw their guns to see who's going to shoot first. And they're able to shoot each other and kill each other, and no one seems to intervene, including the sheriff. The reason they could do this was because before the year 1868, all Americans were considered sovereign beings or self-governing. But since 1868, we are now under the International Maritime Admiralty Law. And for the last part of this video, I'm just going to insert one more clip from Jordan Maxwell, and I'm going to end it here.
In 1868, there was a corporation founded. Anyone can incorporate a company. Well, in 1868, there was a company incorporated. And in that particular company, the founders of that company they referred to it as the United States Corporation. And they stipulated that anybody who would be a member of that corporation or work for that corporation would be called not an employee, but a citizen. So today, if you are asked, are you a citizen of the United States, what you think you're being asked is, are you lawfully in this country to do business? That's not lawfully what's being asked. They didn't ask if you were in America lawfully. They ask you a specific question. Are you, of your own volition, out of your own mouth, testifying that you are a citizen of the United States? Because in that way, citizen of the United States means you are an employee of a foreign corporation operating on the International Maritime Law. So today, the President of the United States is the President of a privately owned company. The company is called United States. And the word president is always a word that is used in corporate law. Banks have presidents. All companies have presidents. So there's a corporation called United States, privately owned, and it has a president. President Bush is not the president of America. President Bush is the president of a privately owned company. Privately owned, out of England. And you need to understand words and terms. Because I believe that there is a divine presence in the universe that men call God, and one day that divine presence is going to move on the earth and we're going to see freedom come back to this world. And when it does, you're going to need to understand words and terms and how they have been used to trick you.